Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and a good morning at you. And happy 5783 to anybody who's paying attention. Whatever. It's Christian calendar. It's September 27th, 2022. It's a Tuesday, and that means Susan's here. Hi.
Hello. Happy New Year. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova to you. Happy New Year. Whoa. Well, okay. I got a lot of heavy stuff here. I hate jumping in.
Okay, just dive in. Just go for it.
Well, wait. I've got one that's not like heavy. I might do a rant, but it's not heavy. Here, the station that carries Jeopardy changed the time that it airs it. And I had gotten very used to watching it at 7 p.m. They changed it to 7:30. Yesterday, I forgot that and eagerly timed my dinner so that I could watch Jeopardy at 7. Well, it wasn't there. Wheel of Effing Fortune was there instead. And somehow I watched it. At the end, it was noted that it was Teachers Week or something. And there was a big sign up behind Pat Sajak and Vanna White. And it said, Teachers, TEACHER''S, Teachers Week. And it right away struck me.
It's apostrophe S. It wasn't S apostrophe.
Exactly. It should be S apostrophe. And since this was Teachers Week, and teachers teach things like where apostrophes belong and where they don't, I couldn't believe. And then they put it up, and Sajak actually talked about it and said, let's address the annual controversy about our apostrophe. So it turns out that they've done this year after year. They have gotten howling messages from, I'm sure, teachers and others that that's just wrong. It's not just one Teachers Week, which is what they're suggesting.
Right.
Their whole week is intended to, I guess, honor teachers, plural, which means the apostrophe comes after the S. Teachers Week. And he goes on to explain that even though this is an annual dust-up, they were sticking to their guns.
They insisted on their right to be wrong. They must be Republicans.
Jesus H. I couldn't believe.
Well, I'm telling you, they're Republicans, and that's how respectful Republicans are to teachers. We've been watching.
Oh my God! But I mean, to be
don't
told,
watch that show. Why are you watching that show?
Because it was supposed to be Jeopardy. That's why.
Well, turn the channel. There's a thing called a remote control.
Yeah, but Jesus, God in heaven! I mean, that they would go on and double down, and that's wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah, that's their pleasure. To be wrong, to misinform, and to misteach in, quote, honor, unquote, of teachers.
You know,
and that's no apostrophe. That's just plural. What?
That's right. And I was going to say that.
You could leave the apostrophe out totally and just call it Teachers Week.
That is correct. And that's what should be done. It's what I think is true of President's Day, where the apostrophe is always wrong, and Father's Day and Mother's Day. No apostrophe needed. All right, I'll stop.
Right, because it isn't exactly their day. It's a day that we are naming in honor of them, making it the apostrophe just beside the point.
Yeah,
it becomes the collective noun for the group being honored. No apostrophe.
Exactly right. So I guess what stunned me was the fact that they drew attention to their God, unbelievable. I give up. Okay, well now from here, it just gets worse. I want to tell you, and I'm really sorry about that. But you look around the world, and I don't know. You got anything that isn't frightening?
No.
She does not. So
no.
Okay. So I want to let me do this. I have been noticing that as I'm reading newspapers, I often, surprising, I often go ballistic when I come upon a sentence that is just in there and not expecting to become something that some old lady in Pittsburgh would freak out about, but I freak out, and I want to share two of those with you. One is from the local paper, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And it was a front page story, I believe, yesterday in their Sunday edition about the terrifying gubernatorial race here, in which we have just,
a Nazi, right?
Yeah, a Nazi running, Mastriano.
Yeah. Right.
And here is in the article. Here is what the reporter, this is above the fold, the lead story. The contrast between the candidates for governor, Josh Shapiro, the polished pragmatist, and Doug Mastriano, the conservative firebrand. I went nuts.
Well, isn't that that's more than putting lipstick on a pig? That's totally reordering the portrait. Well, that's how bias in the media is. That's how opinions are formed.
Well, and this is how though media playing it like they've always played it, phoning it in. Well, here's a Republican. He's a conservative, right? He's a Republican, and he is no more conservative than
he's radical.
He's a fascist. Well, I was looking. There's another newspaper that I saw a piece on, and this is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is hardly in the blue area of the state, and yet that newspaper called in trying to explain who Mastriano was, said the Republican gubernatorial candidate, election denier, and Christian nationalist Doug Mastriano.
Now, there you go. That's an accurate description.
That is a reporter, exactly, explaining who and where he stands.
I mean, you tell me, what does a firebrand mean?
Well, it's a nice way of saying the guy's stark raving nuts. Or dangerous, or I don't know. But firebrand often has a positive connotation.
Right. It means that he's an exciting guy before the crowd,
Fighting the establishment.
He's a leader. I mean, a firebrand, looks like Josh Hawley, but positive.
Something like, So it's just totally wrong. He's not a conservative. And to call him a firebrand is just ludicrous.
Right. So, well, first of all, he's not a conservative. I mean, he's
just so not a conservative.
No.
Okay, here's another one that I just read this morning. Had to spit my post toasties out. Here. This is about the nationalist fascist that's soon to be the head of Italy. Ms. Georgia Maloney, right?
Yeah, who everybody's trying to say, oh, she's not so bad. She's not going to hurt anybody.
Look at her. She's
just cute. She's blonde.
Yeah, isn't she cute?
She's fine.
I like her hair.
Don't be worried.
Really? No. Georgia Maloney. And it's, although this is, what I'm going to freak out about is not so much about her, is again, a reporter. This is in the New York Times. The reporter, yeah, okay. In the past, Ms. Maloney has admired Mr. Putin's defense of Christian values.
Is this the same Putin who is currently being worldwide accused of war crimes?
Right, Putin. Putin's
that's Putin.
Of
Christian values.
What Christian values? The only thing I could come up with was
he was charitable towards Donald Trump.
And then I thought, well, that's not really. I was thinking homophobia. Technically, that's not a Christian value, although to see how most churches are dealing.
How it plays out, yes, but no.
Yeah. But no, what? She has admired Putin's defense of Christian values. And then the reporter just goes on, and I'm left like, what?
There were no quotes around. This would be a time for punctuation.
No, nothing. Just blithely goes on. You're just supposed to swallow that whole. But it is these insidious. It's stuff like this. And in both cases, reporters downplaying or just misreporting true danger and or evil. And there's so much of it now. Reporters, media falling short. Hey, by the way, speaking of Maloney, I have two other things that I noted. So the party she had, the fascist party, the Mussolini lovers, is the Brothers of Italy. And how odd is it? Does it seem strange to you that
they elected a sister?
Yeah. And here, representing the Brothers of Italy, we got you this blonde babe. Yeah. So that seems a little odd. And then it also says here, I'm just sharing this with you, fascists do love fascists. Mike Pompeo, President Donald J. Trump, Secretary of State,
thinks she's a cute babe.
Oh, yeah. Tweeted his congratulations. No. Yeah. Italy deserves and needs strong conservative leadership, he wrote her. This is another. When Pompeo says conservative, what he's supposed to
he means fascist.
Fascist. He means fascist.
Right. If we're good Christians should be screaming.
People, if we're going to, all of a sudden Putin is a defender of Christian values, thus says the New York Times reporter, and here's our former Secretary of State, calling this fascist and nationalist a conservative. And I'm just so, there's so much of this going on that you cannot, I feel great trepidation when I read almost anything, because I know. Well,
we've got to keep screaming. Everybody has to keep screaming. Thank God. Everybody's watching. I am not. I must admit, watching Ken Burns' thing.
It was wonderful.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I just couldn't.
It's good. Well,
I'm just very glad that other people are.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are. You think people are?
I think people are, yeah.
Yeah, I think Jews watch it. That's who watches it. And even you won't. Yeah, it's good. I mean, there are things that, you might already know, but there are things that might surprise you. And it was, it was eye-opening and, scary.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But again, it's knowing our own history. And what the Ken Burns documentary shows is we don't.
Right. Because we're right in the middle of it, folks. We're right in the middle of it. I mean, this is at the beginning. We're in the middle.
Well, I don't think, there's so many people whose reaction to it is, good God, especially the first 2 hours, because that goes into the beginnings in Germany. If you close your eyes, you think you are listening to a newscast about America 2022. Same stuff, exact same stuff, same side, same word, same, and that there's no way to watch the first 2 hours, which is what I do suggest you do. Watch the first 2 hours and just look at
the peril.
Don't worry, there's no pictures of bulldozers filled with skeletal bodies, and it's not that. It's just showing how. Good God in heaven. I also want to point out something that I noted, again, media related. This is television. It has to do with two women. And I'm a little unclear because I didn't see the one. Leslie Stahl, apparently on, was it 60 Minutes this Sunday, interviewed, I don't know, she interviewed, what's his name, the horror, the guy in Tehran, their president.
Oh, okay.
Iran.
Yeah.
Bad man, horrible man. Horrible, which is why there's so many people out in the streets, literally risking their lives
right
now.
Not Khomeini, but
no. It starts with an R, and I'm blanking. But he makes the former, I think it's Raisi or something. Raisi.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's from true theocratic, fascist, woman-hating Scaryville. I mean, he is something. Now, I know Leslie Stahl interviewed him, and what I read is she was told that she was to stand when he walked into the room and was not to sit until he was seated, which, treats him like, royalty.
Right.
Her head was to be covered.
Right.
She was not to interrupt. There are all these rules. And obviously, because they did the interview, she complied. On the other hand, Christiane Amanpour had what was to be one-on-one with him in New York when he was here for the UN conference. And she, of course, was born in Iran and, could do the interview in their common language. But she would have been and she was told the same stuff.
Right.
You will wear a headscarf, you will this, you will that, you will not interrupt. And she essentially said, fuck you.
Right.
And so she lost what was this big interview that CNN had been promoting that they would have. She did the right thing. What I don't know is where Leslie Stahl did the interview. That would be the only, if she was in Iran. That makes a difference. That makes a difference because then I'm in this country where women are treated like, got to wear a tablecloth over you and be deferential to men. But, okay, when in Rome, I'm going to do that. But
in the United States, those rules don't go here.
So if Stahl was in Iran, I back away from my criticism. But if that interview was done in this country, there's no excuse. No excuse.
No, there isn't an excuse. And, they are making the decision to have a woman in each case interview the powers that be. The network is setting up this confrontation. I mean, what's their point?
Well, Amanpour, I don't know about Stahl, but Amanpour
would be the right person to do it. I agree.
And nobody knows more about Iran.
Right. No, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. I don't know.
He clearly wants to be heard in this country, or he wouldn't be sitting for the interviews in the first place. So I don't know why you don't say sorry, especially if it's in the United States. Our rules.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get your message out, you'll treat women here appropriately.
Oh, dear God in heaven. Okay, now here, you want to get Susan's voice to go up about 20 decibels? No, it's too early. Let's not. Okay. I got something else here, though, and this really scares me. I've been watching this out of the corner of my eye for some time and fearful of even bringing it up. But there was a story today in the New York Times, which I think there is a case making its way. Well, it's already there. It is at the Supreme Court of the United States. And it will be argued. They have accepted the case. It will be argued soon. I don't know, a month or so. I have no idea when, but it's on there, whatever that's called.
Docket.
Agenda, roster, docket. Yeah, probably. And it's called Moore versus Harper, which doesn't mean anything to you. It comes out of North Carolina. And what happened was the legislature in North Carolina, being, like so many others, solely controlled by Republicans, drew up a new map designating where congressional district lines would be. And they drew a map that so blatantly shouted, gerrymander, that the Supreme Court of North Carolina rejected it. And in fact, called it repugnant. I mean, and that's the Supreme Court of
their state.
Well, the Republicans were having none of that, so they went to the Supreme Court. Their argument is what is the scary part. And this is the argument that our Supreme Court wants to hear, because we already know that 4 of the justices sitting on it could argue that case themselves. They love the argument. And that is, let me see how to put this so I can explain it. That it says that the legislatures of each state have the sole, this is what they're arguing, have the sole power to deal with anything having to do with the elections. And that it is not reviewable by the Supreme Courts of the states.
That's just bullshit. I mean, that just pays absolutely no attention to the point of the separation of powers and how they work. That is just, I mean,
Well, Suze, I'm already telling you, we almost have a majority on the Supreme Court that are going to say, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, well,
So well, if it happens, we got no one to appeal to. And so North Carolina is arguing that the state legislatures, and you can see why they are, because most states legislatures are controlled by Republicans. And they're saying all those legislatures have literally, the only responsibility among any of the institutions, governmental institutions, for drawing congressional districts and for other, that's just what they're arguing in this case. But that would mean for setting voting regulations, whatever, and that the state courts have no role to play in saying whether or not any of what the legislature is doing is constitutional.
All right.
I agree with Susan. It just seems absurd.
It's just absurd.
Yet, Susan, and yet, there is great fear.
I'm sure there is.
Fear.
But if Roberts wants any chance for this court, to be able to pretend that they have any credibility at all, he's got to rein this in. They have got to allow the rule of law to exist in this country. I mean, otherwise, I'll go buy a gun. It's revolution time. I'm sorry.
If the Supreme Court, agrees with the North Carolina Republicans, give it up. It's over. I'm serious, because there's nowhere to turn. It's not like you could even if with the Congress could do anything. The Congress can't do anything at that point. It's all so. Something pretty remarkable has happened. There is something called the Conference of Chief Justices, which would be a pretty elite group, and it is made up of the chief justices of the
state Supreme Courts.
Yeah. And they have, and it's being called highly unusual, have already put in an amicus brief.
I'm not surprised.
Saying that, well, I'll see if I can see anything that they have said. They have said that it would radically, if the court finds for the North Carolina Republicans that federal elections and how we do them, it will radically reshape elections in this country. And God, who would undermine?
Yeah.
Well, wait. No, it would undermine the authority of state courts to interpret state law.
Right.
That's the thing that I just don't get. Which is
that's their job.
It's a bedrock principle of what the hell is the state Supreme Court there for?
I mean, that is their job to keep the legislature in check.
Yes. And here's something else that will make you see that this is, the guy who is quoted in the article who signed this thing is a guy named Nathan Hecht. And he is the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court. Now, I'm just going to assume that the Texas Supreme Court is conservative. And he, in fact, was elected as a Republican. And he
but now you're messing with his power.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
That's the only thing we got on our side.
It's so rare for this group to say boo about anything before the federal court. And even more unbelievable because this is such a controversial and ideologically charged case that they thought we have to wade in. It doesn't matter. This is, trampling on our job.
Well, their constitutional duty.
Yes.
That's their whole purpose.
We already know that there are 4 members of the current Supreme Court that have already issued opinions in various other cases indicating that they sort of are inclined to like this, what's called the independent state legislature theory. That's the latest thing that they're trying to do.
I'm sorry. If you take it to its logical end, it's just nonsense. It's anarchy. No. It destroys the federation, as it were.
Well, that's right. That is right. And that's what these guys are arguing. I mean, what? But we know we have a Supreme Court is quite willing to say, fuck federalism when it suits our purposes. Because you would think these conservative justices
who are all members of the Federalist Society,
right? But they also are political as hell, and they know that this benefits Republicans in the current situation in the United States and could seal the deal. Well, I just, this is, again, and if you watch that thing about what happened in Germany,
this is how they do it, through the courts.
This is how you do it. You always corrupt the courts. You hamper them when they need to be hampered. You give them powers that you take some away. You give them others, whatever. So I just want you to keep your eye on this. I wish I could, somewhere in here, I read when they're going to hear the arguments, but it's coming up. And so after the arguments, that means there's going to be some decision on this in the next, 4 or 5 months?
I don't know. Well, we'll see if there's another leak. But while we're disparaging the judicial system, let's give a hip hip hooray and a 3 cheers to the special master, handpicked by the Trump forces, who's busily hoisting them on their own petard every time they turn around. It's quite refreshing and so well done. I mean, just absolutely not doing everything that you've been requesting of everybody through the whole hour is what he's doing. Calling them on every single little bit of their bullshit. They don't get to call him Mr. President. He goes, who's that? To whom are you referring? And when they say Trump, he says he's not the president. Sorry.
But it is an honorific to call.
Yeah, well, he's not,
but not in a court of law.
Not in a court of law where they're using it to.
He does not have the power,
the rights associated with the title.
Right, exactly.
Which is what the judge keeps pointing out. And when and every time they, FBI planted stuff, he says, "Please show me."
Mm-hmm.
He is calling them on every single thing. And this is their guy. This is who they wanted. No wonder the FBI said, no wonder the Department of Justice said yes.
Wow.
So, there are, I just want to remind us all, there are people of good character out there, of good ethics, striving mightily to do their jobs. There's the Vindemans out there. They exist all over the place.
Well, yes, indeed. But again, the other side is relentless. And there was just a bone-chilling editorial in Sunday's Times about how America's neo-fascists, the Republicans, are working tirelessly to take over the machinery of elections. And the case coming before the Supreme Court is one instance in that fight. But when you look at how they're doing it and the successes they have already had, and the fact that you've got so many of them now in the pipeline. So what stopped Trump from being able to pull off the coup were a few luckily placed Republican office holders, like the Secretary of State in Georgia, right, Raffensperger, and others, who, when approached by Trump or others, Giuliani, said, no, that's against the law. So what they're doing is either changing the laws or putting people in those positions that will say,
come right here.
You want 11,000 more votes? You want us to find 11,000 more votes? All right, we can do that for you. And so if you look what the article, the editorial is chilling, because it talks about how many of these people who fully, are open about their intent. Now, like Mastriano, who's running here, who has bragged that if he gets elected, he will be able to decide who wins. He will appoint the Secretary of State, who will decide that Democrats just can't win. Ballots will be thrown out, called into question. So the thing is in this other universe that we don't visit very often, these guys are very, very busy. And they're busy at the level that Democrats never pay attention to. That is the low levels, the precinct level of how elections are run. Because elections are run locally, hyper locally, right? The feds don't have anything to do with how we do our elections here. Every state, every bailiwick has its own people. And it's cumbersome, crazy. I think there's probably...
And it's increasingly hard to staff because of threats against said people. That's true. That's true. But as some election officials run and say, I didn't sign on to be, threatened. I just wanted to be a poll watcher. As people leave, the people who are raising their hands and saying, I'll do it. Right. Are the wrong people. I was just thinking I should go do it. But I don't want to get up at 5.
Well, I think we guys, no less a frightening figure than Steve Bannon on his show, which, you can imagine he reaches probably millions of these lunatics. And he has been promoting this precinct strategy and telling them, you sign up to be a precinct committee member. And he has said, we will take this back precinct by precinct. And an investigation by some journalists last summer, after Bannon had said, here's what we're going to do, showed that in 65 counties that were contacted by the reporters, 41 reported a huge, strange increase in new people signing up to be precinct workers, there was only that huge spike on the Republican side, none on the Democratic side. So, and they've made very clear that these people, they'll train them, not Bannon types. They've got training for them on how to challenge voters at the polling places. They will have access to a hotline to call, an army of attorneys ready to jump in and challenge votes. And even if it's all specious, it's all crap, it'll bollock things up, create confusion, create doubt, and allow them to go on and continue the big lie that our election system is fraudulent because they are making it so. It's mind-boggling. They point out in the New York Times editorial on this that after the last primary, the May primary here in Pennsylvania, there were 3 counties in Pennsylvania, all controlled by wall-to-wall Republicans, who refused to count a whole lot of ballots. And for reasons like, well, they were supposed to put the date there on the envelope and they failed to do so. You might recall some of this, that the governor, a Democrat, filed suit and a judge ruled just last month that those ballots had to be counted. But this is the kind of thing they will.
Yeah, that's timely, right?
Yeah, well, God help us. So the Times finishes up by saying, look, guys, you got to understand the real threat to our electoral system is not posed by, as the Republicans want to say, by ineligible voters, trying to cast ballots. And whenever we do find that, it's people casting ballots.
They're all Republicans.
Yeah. They're always Republicans, right? The threat is happening right in front of our faces. As with so much, they're very transparent about their intentions and what they're doing. And there's no way to stop them unless our side and our people are willing to come out and counter. And we're not. So they finish by saying Trump and others looking to pervert the electoral process are full of intensity and they are playing a long game, like Republicans always do. Only an equally strong and committed countervailing force will meet the challenge. And it's true. And we don't have it.
Well, that is
maybe you want
always
to rethink getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I should do it.
I think you should. God. Look. We're really fucked. I'm so depressed.
I know. I was going, Happy New Year.
Yeah, well. Oh, here's something. And I thought, wow, the whole Jews will not replace us, or the great replacement theory that has animated all the racists and nationalists in this country and is the driving force. The driving force. Because, demographically, we know that the country's getting less white, which to, I guess, some white people is unbearable and is truly, obviously, an existential threat. God, what scaredy cat idiots. It's just beyond me. But here's another thing, and this shocked me.
Well, they don't understand why this group that they have spent their whole history and ancestral history and current lives trying to keep down, they assume that they would want to kill them.
Do the same to them, yeah. Well, they've just had power. They've always had power, right? And the fear of, they feel like they've been losing power. They've been losing power to, well, they let women all of a sudden go after jobs that used to be forbidden to them. They let black people and brown people and all this kind of crap. And so all of a sudden, the kind of things that were just assumed, the privileges of being white in this country just weren't as great as they used to be. But here's a thing I didn't realize was as big as it is. This is a very Christian movement. Ask Doug Mastriano. The number, and this is a Pew numbers, Pew Research, the number of Americans identifying as Christian was 90% just 30 years ago. 90%.
Yeah, it felt like that.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm shocked, though. And you ask the same people now, are you Christian? You know what? You don't get anywhere near 90%. You don't get near 80%. You don't get near 70%. The number of Americans identifying now as Christian, this blew my mind, in the last 30 years has dropped to 64%. The largest demographic is those who say, I have no affiliation. And that is almost 30% now, up from 16. So people who used to be identifying as Christians are disappearing, and people who say, I'm not buying into any of this. So it is that secularization of America that is scaring the bejeebers out of these people as well. Because not only are they losing their white privilege, but there's fear that they will lose their Christian privilege, which is why you have this sort of the people just flocking to Mastriano. They're doing it as white people and as Christians.
Well, you know, the Pope just asked the United States bishops to poll their parishes and have this conversation, you know, about why, you know, what they're doing wrong and where are people going. And, you know, it turns out that it just is a total reflection of the United States. You know, it's all political and it's killing the church.
Well, but the church itself is involved.
But the church itself is involved
on the social issue front, on homosexuality.
Well, the whole homosexuality thing is, I mean, how it's just never made sense to me that a place that was as scandal-ridden as it was, with a male clergy that refused to admit that what was driving, I mean, the whole thing just makes no sense. You don't even have to talk about it. It makes no sense.
Well, but religion has nothing to do with making sense. It's about, right? It isn't. I mean,
no, I know, but I'm just going to throw it out there. But anytime the man's number one rule is no girls allowed, nothing good comes of that.
That's correct. Do we have a caller there? I'm asking. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. The problem with Christianity is, to me, is just Christians. You know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true.
That was the problem with serving the public, too, the public.
Well, you know what? That's what, Mahatma Gandhi famously said. I love your Jesus Christ. It's your Christians I can't stand. Or something to that effect. Yeah.
I know so many people who are they just want to put Christ back into Christmas. And I'm like, why don't you put Christ back into Christians, for God's sakes? Then we'll deal with that one first.
Yeah, right. I mean, exactly.
I mean, the reason I'm not Christian anymore is because they turned me off. I mean, and that's where that 60%, that figure you said where it keeps dropping lower and lower. People are watching them. I mean, it's just hypocrisy they're watching. But the real reason I called was you mentioned Steve Bannon and what he's doing and the likes of him. And you think about like the Koch brothers and you say, and nobody from our side is doing anything.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, really, a lot of this is coming from private people. It's not coming from the Republican Party. It's coming from a very wealthy group of people who identify as conservatives.
Yeah, and most of them are in Wisconsin. It's two sets of brothers, the Koch brothers and this other group in Milwaukee, and I keep forgetting their name.
There's a ton of big money. Yes, right.
So, I mean, it's coming from money, not from the politicians.
Well, but the politicians love it. They're not, they let these guys do the dirty work, so that they don't get touched, supposedly, with it. I ain't doing that. It's like the worst political ads are you never hear the candidate come on, I'm so-and-so and I, approve this message. No, you get another group to come in and spew crap.
So look, from what you were asking before, who would this group of people on the left be? Would this be the Mark Cubans? Is it who needs?
Oh, I'll tell you who it is. The big bad wolf.
It's Soros.
George Soros, the Jew. He's said to be funding, I don't know what. What is he funding? Because what are we doing?
Oh, he's paying me to show up at rallies.
Oh, he is?
Wonderful.
Yeah. He's underfunding. He's funding the caravans of desperate
migrants
heading north. Yeah. I don't know. Listen, I'm told I have two other callers, and we've only got 4 minutes left. So I'm going to have to say goodbye, and let's try to get people in. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Appreciate the call. Bye-bye. Okay. Next caller, who we have? Hello.
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning. Hello.
Hello. Go ahead.
I'm calling to say Shana Tova and Sei gesund. This is Ella.
Hi, Ella.
Hello. I just wanted to also tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And I'll be having my apples and honey in a minute, but I'll make it real fast. I listened to CBS, Bernie Sanders, and he says, don't look at the personality. Look for what the people stand for. And Anita Hill has a book out, Believing, and it's a 30-year journey of how children were treated. And her main thing, like, we got to re-educate the kids. And like when a little boy pulls your hair, that means he likes you, and that's got to stop.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Okay, let the next caller call. So long.
You're a dear. Bye. Goodbye.
So long.
Goodbye. Thank you. Okay, next caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you couldn't hear me. I was just going to say real quick, Lynn, is if the Republican Party wants God to dictate our government, they don't have to just go over to Iran. They already have that. They could just move to Iran. That's what they have, a government that God dictates, or whatever they believe it. I don't even know what they believe in, but whatever. That's what it is. And there's no hard evidence one way or the other. So why do they make a big deal out of all this religion? Either way, nobody knows one way or the other. They really don't. So just do what you got to do, and that's it, you know? Okay. Well,
okay. Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep.
Bye. Oh, God.
See, but that's like tried and true, good old Democrat. Just do what you got to do. Just leave me.
Oh, Lord.
You know. Oh well. We'll see. You know, here's what we got to do. We've really got to vote. We've really got to vote, and we've got to. And I would suggest that don't. I don't know what Bernie was talking about, but I'd go farther. I'd just say you can only vote for a Democrat. That at this point, it's the only way to save our democracy. And I don't care who the Democrat is, unless she's from Arizona and her name starts with S. Cinema. That one is, I mean, now what, she's cozying up to McCormick, so that's wonderful.
Not McCormick.
I mean McConnell.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
She's doubling down. She's
Biden.
saying that the filibuster should be even more restrictive than it
right.
is. I mean, she's a what a bitch piece of work. Anyway, yeah, she's not long for the Senate, but that wasn't her intent anyway. She's just one of the, I get a sense of her just cashing in. It's hard for me to believe that anybody would want to do what she did. Just go fly under false pretenses and then stab your voters in the back. It is really, it takes a lot of, I don't know, chutzpah to do that, but it's not in a good way. My God, really. All righty. Well, I think that's it. I gotta remind folks that the Best of Pittsburgh party is happening this Thursday. Okay, this Thursday, and you can go. Susan, you can't. I mean, you could, but no, I don't think it's at the Roxy Theater in McKees Rocks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And you can get your ticket by going to pghcitypaper.com. The Best of party, and that's a lot of good food, a lot of fun, a lot of good people. So want you to know it is this Thursday. If you're looking, I've been out and about almost literally every night, 5 nights in a row, and I'm going out again tonight. Good God!
Well, I hope you stay well long enough to get here.
Why, you think I'm being reckless?
Yeah, maybe just a little. You're booster crazy.
Well, I did my booster.
That's what I mean. And you're going, I'm free. I know.
Well, I finally reached my point where I just want my life back. And I got to tell you, it's been fun. I'm going to a Chris Rock concert tonight.
Cool.
Yeah. So there you go. And then I'll stop.
Okay.
For a while.
Are you going to wear a mask at the concert?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I don't want to, but I will.
No, you should. Just for all sorts of reasons.
If we're packed in there, yeah, I will. And
I mean, mostly because there's so many other really awful upper respiratory things going around right now that seem far worse than COVID. So,
I right after we say goodbye, which is going to happen in about 10 seconds, I'm running out the door. I have an appointment to get my flu shot.
Good for you.
Yes. So, what I'm doing.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. I'll see you soon, huh?
Yeah, you will. Yep.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'm leaving here, and I will meet you there.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I get it. Okay. Guys, you don't know this, but I'm heading to Green Bay again. Going to spend time there and do the show from there next week. Okay.
Okay.
Suze,
okay.
Safe travels.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Okay. All righty, guys. I'll see, metaphorically speaking, you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.